Welcome to RPG Book Club ShortCast, the podcast where we play a big bit of a little video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I'm Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
I'm Maddie Grace Webbin, and this time I think it's more like we play an itty-bitty bit and watch a lot.
Yes, we watch a big bit of a little bit of a video game. So today we will be finishing up Metal Gear Solid, our last Metal Gear Solid episode. Unless, of course, we decide to turn this into a long cast and eventually play every single one of them. But before we dive into tonight's game, crap, I only have the old let's name some guys. I don't have a good one. Unless you want to do the spoilers one.
No, we were talking about it just now. Me and Bernard.
Oh, what were y'all saying?
So our let's name some guys for the week is three boss battles in games where the boss is just a guy. You know, like not a big monster, but just like a normal sized guy.
SAX from Metroid Fusion.
Ooh, very, very good one.
Ravenbeak from Metroid Dread.
Does that count?
I don't know if it counts, but I really love that boss fight.
I think if they're flying around and having like that's just a boss fight. It doesn't count, but whatever. I don't give a shit. Because if you're gonna say that, then you can count like every Mega Man boss.
Yeah.
Okay, but I do really like the Ravenbeak fight.
It is a good fight. There's so many. I'm gonna have to think a little more.
The one that jumps to my mind frequently is because this series is famous for literally never having this, but Final Fantasy 15's final boss with Arden or whatever. That's the guy.
That's a very good one.
He has some Ravenbeak shit where he's flying around and doing some shit, but Final Fantasy is famous for you get to your final boss that should be just some guy, and he turns into a big hideous monster thing, and that's the final boss. And they specifically don't do that in 15.
I like how you called the ultimate villain of Final Fantasy 15 Arden or whoever, because I think that's how we think of him.
Yeah.
You know, Arden or whatever. I don't know.
I've got two. One of them is cheating, but it's okay. The Metal Gear Solid franchise. As we're about to discuss, the Metal Gear series has a recurring motif of their final or second to final or whatever, usually final boss being just a guy. It started with Metal Gear 2 and continues into this game, though the best versions of it, MGS2's version of it is, I would say, better than MGS1's in every way. And MGS3's version is, there's two. There's the boss and also Volgin. Those are both like, what if it was just a guy bosses? And they're phenomenal. They're just outstanding. They're jaw-dropping fights.
Absolutely.
In the canon of greatest video game boss fights of all time. So yeah, and other game, MGS4 has one. A lot of the games have them. Oh, Death Stranding's version of this is up there, right? It's up there with the best of them. It's probably in the A or the S or A tier of Kojima game. Final boss is just a guy fights. So cool. That's one of my.
I thought of probably one of the most famous and probably best ones, but Dark Link in the Water Temple. Zelda doesn't usually have just some guy fights, and the one that they have in Ocarina of Time is phenomenal.
Here's my second one. The Soulsborne or whatever, the Souls games and well, no, I mean the actual franchise, not the genre. But the Souls games and Bloodborne have, I mean, there's literally two kinds of bosses in Souls games. It's big monster with an awful hitbox that isn't really that fun, and then there's a big guy with a sword. But the final boss of Bloodborne is phenomenal. It's easily the best normal-sized guy. Although shout-outs to Father Gas from the beginning of Bloodborne. The final boss of Bloodborne is like, you're dodging and shooting and hitting. He's dodging and shooting and hitting. Not exactly a mirror match, but like very much he's the same kind of thing. And it's just the apex of the form.
Mm-hmm. My second one I'm going to mention is David, the only boss fight in The Last of Us.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really good one.
I don't actually remember if it's particularly great, but it's definitely at least good. And the fact that it's the only actual boss fight in the game makes it
what makes
really
it so
stand
good
out.
is its structural and conceptual weight. Although the fight itself is still quite good. I mean, it's a good fight.
I mean, the whole game is impeccably crafted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as good as any other wonderfully crafted set piece in the game.
Yeah.
I love that boss fight because it manages to be a boss fight in The Last of Us's engine, doing the things that you do in The Last of Us, whereas the Metal Gear Solid boss fights that we've played throughout are not very good Metal Gear Solid bosses.
You know what?
Video game bosses, but Raven, that we'll talk about later tonight, I think is the only Metal Gear Solid boss in the whole game.
I'm not gonna say this is my third one because it's just cheating again, but I guess not every y'all played The Last of Us Part 2. Oh,
you
both have?
No, I haven't.
Okay. The Last of Us Part 2's final boss
it's so good.
I mean, I'll just spoil it. It's not that big of a spoiler. You know the game structure. It's
Well, that's a spoiler for me because I haven't played the game and don't know much about it.
Oh, you don't? Oh, okay. Well, I figured you at least knew that.
Now I know.
Sorry.
I thought you were going to say the absolute final thing, and the thing you were going to say was, it's not a spoiler. It's a fist fight in the beach, and that was also going to be a really good one. But
that
no,
doesn't
you
count.
said this. You said this won't
sorry.
This won't be a spoiler, and then said the most spoiler.
When I said this won't be a spoiler, what I meant is this won't spoil it for anyone who's been paying attention even at all. But I guess Bernard, sorry.
I haven't because I plan on playing it.
Okay, sorry. It's one of those things where it's kind of hard to be on the internet without hearing the main twist of The Last of Us, which that is.
I didn't know being on the internet until I started playing it.
Sorry. Well, anyway, once you're literally a third of the way through the game, you know that this is how it's going to end. Okay.
Yes.
So I will say that it becomes very clear that you know where the story's going. Anyway, it's definitely a mirror match style boss fight, and it's stupendous.
Mm-hmm.
My third one feels passe to say this, but I'm going to say it. The gay-coded villain in The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword.
What's his name? Girahim?
Girahim.
I guess. For the same reason that Sam just said, is that with Zelda, like, first of all, it actually uses the motion plus really well. It uses, like, the motion plus sword fighting really well. Second of all, it's, like, really, really fun. And third of all, it's just, like, in a lot of games, this is passe, but in Zelda, you don't get that. In Zelda, every boss is some big
monster with
3D monster with a very contrived puzzle that you have to do because it's just kind of lame. And even in the old 2D games, they're usually like big room-sized things. And or even if it's just a guy, like there's all kinds of like hazards, like that one where there's like spikes everywhere and shit. The Girahim fight is literally you and him circle strafing each other with nothing else going on, no hazards or lava or anything, and and I think you do that fight like 3 times in the game. And the fact that you do that fight multiple times in the game and then it ends up being the literal final boss, they have a big monster, but that's the second to final boss, and it's like, no, they really commit on like, this is our fucking thing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've only played the beginning of Skyward Sword, but I played enough to get to the first Girahim fight, and I was like, oh my gosh, motion controls are good, and I'm playing a Zelda game where the puzzle is get good at the game.
Yeah,
this hasn't happened since the 80s.
Well, I will say, I think that probably blows my mind a lot more because I haven't played Dark Souls. Like the idea of playing a game that's kind of like a exploration RPG type game that just has stupendously good combat. Like, we're so used to Zelda games being shitty and the combat being lame and boring that it being pretty damn good is mind-blowing, whereas nowadays we're spoiled and we just expect that from any game. But yeah, at the time it was crazy.
So I'm trying to rack my brain to think of a Sam Allman answer for my third one, and I can't, so I'm going to cop out.
Is there a just a guy boss in Banjo-Kazooie?
Unfortunately, the closest would be Klungo, but those boss fights suck.
There would be a guy named Klungo.
But yeah, so I don't think there's a very Sam Allman answer. Because
like Shadow.
The final boss of both Mega Man Legends games that I both played are just some guy, but then that some guy turns into a giant robot thing, and it's no longer just some guy, and the some guy parts aren't that great. So yeah, I think I'm just going to cop out and say Raven because I already mentioned it, but that boss fight tonight owned.
I'll add one more since you didn't get to have yours, because I want to shout out this game. Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter has just a guy final boss.
Oh,
it actually might be the second to final boss, but holy shit, is it good! A lot of that game's bosses is just a guy.
Yeah, that one did remind me of a great one. So, the whole time in Breath of Fire 4, you are like your whole party is available in battle, and the ones that are in the back lines have like support actions that they're doing, and you have your three ones. The whole thing is the power of friendship, and the actual point of everything is Ryu and the main antagonist, like there before the grace of God go I, and Ryu met all of his power of friendship along the way, and that's the difference in them. And then you get into the final boss room, and you have a 1v1 fight with the final boss, and he's just some guy, and you're just some guy, and it's like they do the Sephiroth thing, but Sephiroth is actually hard, and you do that first. And it was really, really awesome when I got there.
That's really good. In general, message to game designers out there: your boss doesn't have to be a big monster. That honestly, usually that just makes the gameplay bad. Make your boss just a guy. It's better dramatically. It's often better mechanically. Make your boss just a guy. In fact, if your boss can't be just a guy, I think this is pretty much a Tim Rogers idea, so I'm just stealing it from him. But like, if your boss, if you can't make a game where your boss is just a guy, your game probably isn't well designed enough.
I have to say a third one. So I'm just going to say Baldur from the new God of War 2018. He is just this scrawny little guy, but he is really fast and really strong. And you fight him, I think, a couple times. I don't remember exactly, but I remember when you fight him right at the beginning, it's like the first point where it's like both being tutorial and actual boss fight, and it's really cool. The end.
Oh yeah, love that.
Gotta love it. So yeah, now that we've named some guys, let's talk about Metal Gear Solid, in which they name a lot of Wikipedia articles. When we last bloomed love on the battlefield, we killed Otacon's girlfriend, and I figured out one of the many twists that we're about to talk about. So now we leave from the snowfield and head into the next area, which is the blast furnace, and it's super hot in there. And
have a video game without a lava level.
Yeah, not a lot happens while we're in there, but we do have a couple conversations with Campbell, who tells us that Metal Gear is right down this direction. We're entering the end zone of the game. There are 3 gameplay areas between now and the end of the game, and a third of the game left. So there are a lot of cutscenes coming up. As we're heading through the blast furnace, we get a codec call from Master Miller, who tells us that Naomi Hunter is not real. Her background about her grandfather in the FBI is some made-up bullshit because she's Japanese, and in the 50s, just after the war, why would America hire Japanese people at the time? Specifically, Edgar Hoover is a well-renowned racist, is what he says. He says that because Naomi is some weird genetic scientist thing, she might be working with the terrorists and be a spy, and maybe, who knows, she might even be behind all of the people that are dying in the game so far. You should probably figure that out, Snake. we enter into the next area, and it's now really, really cold instead of really, really hot. And so we have a really, really good boss fight with a problematic caricature of the Inuit people. We face Vulcan Raven, and I don't think anything he says is important. There's a lot of really bad lines. But the boss fight is really good, so I don't mind.
Easily the best regular boss fight in the game, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And
go on.
And watching the game movie, like there are so many different ways you can do it. Like in my notes, I was like, oh, I used C4, but you could use claymores or Nikitas or anything, and they used stinger missiles in the game.
Oh yeah,
movie.
Yeah, that's
what I did. That's right, actually. Yeah. So the way that this battle works is, it's like the most game where you're actually using like Metal Gear Solid, like primary game mechanics, I guess. In as much as that exists in this game, frankly, I've realized that the whole like modern AAA game that basically just doesn't have core mechanics and you just do whatever, it kind of was invented by this game. LMAO, RIP, you hate to see it. But yeah, like the level's on a big grid. So it's a bunch of like it's a bunch of like shipping containers. So it's just like a bunch of boxes and pathways, like the game's very first area, which might be a little bit of an intentional thing. You're going around, he's going around. He walks slowly, but not like that slowly. It's funny. He walks at a slow, methodical pace, but he's enormous. So his default stride is so big that him walking at a normal walk cycle is him going like twice as fast as you. And he's walking around, and it actually, unlike other boss battles, actually uses stealth gameplay. Like you actually have to use stealth and let him not know where you are. So he has a vision cone, and you want to stay out of it. And going around and sneaking up on him is actually really important. So he's walking around saying, "Where are you?" And you're walking around like fucking Pac-Man in the grid. And if he sees you, he just blasts the bejesus out of you with a giant Gatling gun. So there's no way you can just like shoot at him, right? So you have to like, one thing you can do is you can shoot a Nikita guided missile to get around and hit him, although he's very good at noticing the Nikita and blowing it up. It's actually pretty hard to do that.
Down real well.
But it is a viable option. Another option is to plant C4 or claymores, and then as the claymores will just blow up, but as he passes the C4, you detonate them, so lay a little trap for him, which is really fun, which is also a reference to a boss in Metal Gear 2, the Running Man, where that's pretty much the only way to defeat him, because he's always running away from you, and it's a circular arena, so you pretty much place traps along his route to kill him. That's a fun battle. And you can also just park on one end of a hallway, and then as soon as he peeks his head out into view, blast him with a fucking rocket launcher and then move. But he can shoot down even the rocket. So you still gotta be quick. You can also just go behind him and shoot him with a gun. Like, it's all about sneaking up behind him, even though everything's really echoey. One thing that's really cool is it's got destructible environments. So, like I said, the walls of the grid are all stacks of like big shipping boxes, and as the battle progresses, he'll like throw a big bomb or something and make a big explosion, and then a bunch of these boxes will fall. And then they'll block. Oh, well, first of all, there's item boxes up there, and they'll fall down, so you can grab them. But also, the boxes will then block certain paths. So now, instead of an open grid, it's an open grid with a bunch of obstructions, and some of them are chest high, where you can't cross, but you can still like see you. It's really cool. It's dynamic. I think it really sets up a lot of what you see in later Metal Gear games. These more complex, dynamic situations, instead of just like, when you see the helicopter, you shoot it with a rocket, right? Like the really simplistic battles we've seen before. It's really good, and because we're not actually covering MGS2, I will say, for Sam, because Sam has made clear he's going to like immediately play MGS2 after this. The geometry of this battle is, again, the series is all about repeating tropes, repeating certain patterns and recombination of DNA. You'll see in MGS2 a battle with this guy named Fat Man that pretty much is the exact same battle. It's a grid, and you got to trick him. Difference is, it's kind of the opposite, actually. You're trying to shoot him, and he's doing things like laying bombs to get you. But it's like the same layout, so they kind of like repeat that little genetic thing. And actually, you know what? The Fury in MGS3 as well. There you go. It's a great battle. I really, really love this battle. It's one of the high points of the game.
Before Raven dies in his horrifyingly cool way, he confirms that he confirms the clues that I put together last time, that the DARPA chief is not the one who died in front of us, but that was Decoy Octopus, which was another member of Foxhound.
You said Decoy Octopus again.
I'm not saying you get octopus. He's saying she's just saying like a schwa sound, octopus. Which is
it sounds
weird.
like octopus to me.
It's still weird.
Every time you correct me, I don't hear it, so it's definitely a Texas accent thing of some sort.
No, it's
just... you said Decoy Octopus again. I'm like, what?
Sam, you talk in ways that have nothing to do with. We're all from Texas. We all have Texas accents.
I know, but my pin versus pen thing is very, very strong, and we've already talked about my button glottal stop being very, very strong, which
is not a Texas thing.
I don't know what it is, but
you just made it up.
It's me. But because Octopus and Otacon and Ocelot all have the same goddamn name, I write the wrong one in my notes a lot. So every time Bernard has corrected me on saying Decoy Octopus, I think like, oh shit, which one did I say? Because it's bad. Me and Bernard were talking about this in DMs the other day, that Japanese games, because the writing system is different, they don't run into the problem that happens super often in English, where you don't want to name like 5 characters all with the same starting letter, because it's really easy to get it mixed up, but they're all different in Japanese. But it doesn't work here, because Octopus, Ocelot, and Otacon all have the same one. They're all the same thing. So
I really wish you wouldn't have mentioned this octopus thing, because now I'm not going to be able to stop hearing it. I'm upset about it. Like, you're right, but I wasn't noticing.
Yeah. Octopussy instead of Octopussy.
Octopussy.
Anywho, yeah. So he confirmed the twist that I had caught on earlier. After the fight, we get another call from Miller, but he says, "Hey, turn off your monitor. It's about Naomi." And then Campbell is like, "What about Naomi?" So we have to fill him in on what's going on. So Miller looked up Naomi, and the real Naomi Hunter has already passed away, and our Naomi must have taken her identity. Miller is like, "Campbell, you have to arrest her. She might be a spy for the terrorists, or even a secret third thing." Colonel Campbell says in ellipsis, and Miller is like, "What are you hiding? Does this have anything to do with the deaths of the DARPA chief and the arms tech president?" Campbell is like, "I'll get back to you on that," and ends the call. So we finally make it into the room with Metal Gear Rex, and it is 3 floors tall, including 3 loading zones, and we have to climb hella ladders to scale it, and it owns.
I hope we don't have to fight that thing.
So, fun thing about this is the final stealth level in the entire game, and
there's one guy.
It's a whopping one guy. Although that one guy is a real bastard.
He is.
When Snake enters, he calls, I think, Otacon, and he's like, "It's weird. There's no one here. No one at all." So I'm like, oh, okay, Otto got a stealth. And then you just are running along, and your radar is jammed, and that one guy gets you, and you're like, what the fuck, Snake? I trusted what you said.
Yeah, so this area, it's a really big hangar, but for technical reasons, they couldn't, model going up a ladder as not being a separate location. So it's literally 3 different loading zones, and the first 2 are purely just there for dramatic reasons. Although the one on the bottom, you can get shot by surveillance camera and also get frozen to death by cold water. But the third one, literally has a single guy. But the thing is, it's a really thin metal walkway, and it's kind of hard to not get seen by him, IMO, and you can't even really use your cardboard box, because here's the thing, the cardboard box has a, I think, pretty cleverly nuanced usage in this game. It's not like a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Mm-hmm.
If a guy sees you, he'll be like, a cardboard box, and then he might kind of walk over there and be like, okay, it's just a box. But if you're, like, in their way... then they'll be like they have to walk that way, right? So they'll like get annoyed and like kick the box, and then it's actually a snake. And when they're all walking on tiny walkways, you can't really use the box effectively. I got caught by this guy like 3 times, even though it's like, again, I cannot express this enough. It's just one guy. This is the game's final boss, and it's just a guy.
Yes.
Really, what the solution is just that he has a really long walk path. And you have to just arduously wait for him to walk all the way to the other end of the path and then go to your goal. That's not really a way to cleverly slip by him. You just wait for him to go over there.
You throw your anti-personnel grenade and you stun him and you walk by.
Or that, yeah.
Clock's a ticking. I ain't got time to wait.
Yeah, there is also a way in this game, for the record, to get by any enemy while still being non-lethal by, like, you run up behind them and do like a 1-2 punch or something, or maybe you throw them. There's some way you can do a quick melee strike on someone while behind them and then run past them, and by the time they regain their senses, you're gone.
Yeah.
But I never quite got the hang of it. Every time I tried to do it, like I didn't look it up, I just remembered there was some way to do this. Every time I tried, I would get caught, so.
Yeah. Otacon calls us and he says that Metal Gear is ready to launch, and we just need to use the keys to stop it, but we only have 1 key and there's supposed to be 3, and we haven't found the rest, so we need to figure out what's going on there. So Otacon is trying to hack Baker's files, and he'll let us know what he finds. He does find that Metal Gear shoots nukes via railgun, which gets around both missile detection systems and also certain treaties. So they kind of have like a loophole to get out of it, and also can fuck a lot of shit up if they need to. And they haven't actually tested Metal Gear yet. They've just run simulations, and this was supposed to be an exercise to give them real world data, but the terrorists just put in a real nuke, so it'll be real. We make it to the top of Metal Gear, and we make it by that one guy who's the final boss, and we find Liquid and Ocelot talking about Metal Gear and their plans on where to target it. They say that they've input all of the key codes, and so they're prepared to launch. There's a lot of talk about the political fallout of why they're targeting where they're targeting, but it's not interesting to me, and if it's important, it's not important in Metal Gear Solid 1, so I'm going to skip it. They also say that they have they've added Big Boss's DNA and the vaccine for something called Fox Dye to their demands.
Fox Dye.
They
Fox
say that
Dye.
Fox Dye is whatever it is that killed Octopus and Baker, but Mantis must have been immune because of his gas mask, and Octopus and Baker died because they were old, and it affects older people first. There's some talk about how they'll be able to rule the world from this island because they have all these warheads and Metal Gear to shoot them, and so they should dub this island Outer Heaven, Big Boss's dream, which I'm sure means something.
Okay, this isn't, quote, a lot of talk. This is extremely important. So the political shenanigans, I don't remember the exact details of it. I frankly probably should, because I did find it fascinating. The game actually has a lot harder of a political edge than I'd remembered having, as I mentioned last time. But basically they talk about it's all about this thing called the Start-2 Treaty, which is a real thing, by the way, although this game is ironically far too optimistic about the Start-2 Treaty. But yeah, it's the second of in a series of nuclear reduction treaties. So basically it's like, yeah, America, this is all stuff that you and I as modern day people, vaguely lefty politics, would, well, vaguely I say about everybody listening, because I don't know who all listening to this thing, but would agree with, which is like, yeah, America sucks, right? And they're bad at the military industrial complex, like just a bunch of greedy people, whatever. But it actually says it very astutely, and it's basically just like, yeah, this is all just a fucking op, and it's all basically just like, it's not even about like American military hegemony, though it is partially. It's mostly just about grift. or graft rather is the better word for it. Like the Straight Jacket article about how like, yeah, because of the falling rate of profit, like capitalism doesn't even work the way it's supposed to work. Like most profit in America nowadays doesn't even come from giant companies making money. It actually just comes from straight up grafting off the public sector, which is way worse. So like, you know, the military industrial complex being like, yeah, we're going to sell stuff to the government for way, 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 way more money than it even should cost if we were actually selling it on like a regular market because of corruption. So this extra layer of corruption means that the profit motive isn't even, the profit making isn't even according to like normal capitalistic methods of just like labor extraction, but rather is like an extra layer of like, right, but we also get to like our friend is the guy in the government buying this thing, so he can just pay us 3 times as much money as like you would actually get it if you sold it according to like a capitalistic market. That's what this game's all about, and it's actually really, really cool. And yeah, so the main thing is a conspiracy for basically arms tech or whatever to sell this thing to the government for an absolute bitch ton of money. And the funny thing is, yeah, all the talking is pretty much like, who would be the least politically dangerous person for us to shoot this nuke at? But the funny thing is, they could blow the terrorists could blow someone up, right? But they wouldn't know that America did it because it's a stealth missile. They're literally just shooting a rock into space with a railgun. They're not firing a ballistic missile, which leaves like a massive signature, right? It's like a giant glorified slingshot. So when this little rock, which I guess they use extremely complicated calculations to figure out where it'll land, probably not realistic. I mean, you got like wind and weather and shit, but whatever. Presumably they use calculations to figure out exactly where it would land, and then just shoot. It's just a mass driver. You just shoot the thing really hard and it goes halfway across the world and lands. No one would even know who shot it. So that's funny because how could this is the part I thought was very cute. How could the terrorists fire a nuke? And the problem with holding someone hostage is that once you pull the trigger, you have no leverage. Right? That's the whole thing about a bluff. If you say, give me all this money or I'll kill this guy, and then you do kill the guy, well, now why would the government not just blow you up with a bomb or send in the troops, right? So they're running into the same situation. They're like, give us all this money or we'll fire a nuke. But now it's like, well, now we have to fire a nuke. Our time ran out. But literally anywhere we shoot, like, America would just like, if, you know, I don't remember the actual example, but it's like, oh, if we shoot it at this country, America could just say that this other country did it. And then we would basically just be giving them cover to go invade those guys or something like that. So then it's revealed that, and this is very important, the real goal all along wasn't any of that. The goal wasn't even the hostage situation. The goal, or the ransom, the goal was to actually demonstrate the weapon, sell all that information on the black market, and get lots of buyers. So then, you know, like Israel or something, or like some little, even like much smaller, like micro sect or something, rebel group would come, or just Israel, would come to these terrorists, the Foxhound, and be like, hey, we want to buy Metal Gear. That's what it's really about, is making a lot of money from these guys for wanting to buy Metal Gear. So to do that, the point is the goal actually is to fire it, which isn't what you think. Because when you say, give us all the money or else, what you want is the money, right? But now it's like, no, their goal was actually to fire the thing. But here's when it gets really tricky. Then it turns out that their real goal is not sell it to some rogue state or rebel group or whatever, or Saudi Arabia, because they saw how good it is. It's use that as a threat to jack up the price and then just sell it back to America anyway, which is hilarious and really good. But then that's what Ocelot thinks the whole plan has been all along. But then Liquid actually betrays Ocelot. This is very important. Liquid reveals his plan that only he knew this whole time, which is that he doesn't want to make $1 bazillion by selling the thing to Saudi Arabia or America, and does, in fact, want to start a rogue micronation state called Outer Heaven, which is exactly what Big Boss did in the previous 2 games. And it's this like highly ideological sort of take over the world thing, because we're the ones who have our hands on this nuke that can cause horrible havoc. So another very long-winded explanation, but it's actually really neat, and it's also very important to understand, again, that Ocelot and Liquid had different Did I say Otacon? Ocelot and Liquid had different motivations. The game doesn't explicitly say this, but I get the feeling that Liquid isn't really the boss. Like, I feel like Liquid and Ocelot very much were like co-directors of this whole operation. Like, you always see them talking to each other, conferring, right? And at this point, Liquid reveals that he had a secret extra card up his sleeve that was not in anyone else's playbook. Because everyone else is like, we want to get rich. Yeah. And he's like, no, I actually want to do this like personal pet project thingy of mine, right? But yeah, this whole thing just has a lot of really, really good edgy commentary that goes a lot beyond just the usual like, rich companies are bad, American imperialism is bad, which is like, yeah, duh.
Yeah. After hearing you fully explain it, sticking to my guns, not interesting and doesn't seem to be very important.
Okay.
I understand why it's interesting to you and all of that stuff. I'm just not a big political guy. Which is not to say I don't believe in politics. I think politics is very important, but political like machinations as plot devices just I like big robots that blow shit up. So when Liquid is like, I actually want to blow shit up with my big robot, I'm like, got it. Cool. Now I'm paying attention.
I think this is a medium amount of interesting.
I think that it's literally the whole main theme of the whole series is Kojima's 90s American anarchist view of geopolitics, which is largely wrong, but also basically correct.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Ocelot asks Liquid if he's worried about anyone overriding the launch, and he's like, "No, the codes died with Baker and the Chief, and when we interrogated Snake, he didn't know shit about shit, and he didn't even have all 3 keys. So obviously, nothing bad will happen here." So Otacon calls Snake on the codec, and he tells us that we actually do have all of the keys. So one card key that we have has magical sci-fi temperature shape-shifting powers, and so it will read as a different key at room temperature, at freezing, and at boiling temperatures.
I'm sorry, but you need to explain this in a much more laborious way for it to be accurate to the game.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
Whenever Otacon explains something, he really wants to take advantage of the fact that the codec freezes time.
Yes.
And the fact that the game is using the power of the PlayStation 1 video game console, and they can fit a lot of compressed voice acting on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
But as we're talking aloud to ourselves on a cell phone, Ocelot can hear us, and he sees Snake outside the door, and he shoots the card key out of our hands. So we have to climb all the way down Metal Gear, dig around in the freezing sewage to find it, and then climb back up and input the room temperature key.
I'm sorry, you skipped over the stupidest part of the whole entire game.
Wait, which part? I was about to say this. Maybe this part you're about to say. What part?
The part where a rat eats the key, and you have to blow up the rat.
I did not have that. I had my mine detector, and I just grabbed it from the sewage. I never had the rat.
This didn't happen to me either, and it's never happened to me in actual gameplay, so I find it hilarious that it happened to Bernard. Apparently, it only happens if you're on hard mode, or, because I know Bernard wasn't on hard mode, if you fit certain criteria. I think it's if you're being too good at the game. I think if your playtime is under a certain amount. So because Bernard's too good at the game, yeah, a fucking rat eats the card key, which is so funny.
That's so
I-
stupid.
I didn't know this happened until I was reading about it online 2 weeks ago. Because I've never had this happen.
So probably the game thought I was a lot better than I was because I've been using save states instead of reloading. But yeah, I could not find this GD key. So I was calling everyone, and Master Miller was like, "That's it, Snake. A rat must have eaten it." "No, I'm right. There's no other possibility. Rats eat all sorts of things. There's nothing unusual about that." And I was like, "That's what?" So
That's so stupid.
So basically a rat comes out of a rat hole in the metal, and you have to leave a mine or C4 or whatever to blow it up so you can get the key out of its belly.
That's so stupid. I'm glad
I can't believe y'all didn't have to deal with this.
Again, to this day, I played this game quite a number of times and have never had this happen.
That's so silly.
So when I posted those screenshots in the host chat where Miller talks about the rat eating something, you must have been confused.
Yeah, I thought it was some like hidden codec thing that I had missed or something.
Oh, if you have under 10 alerts, at least according to this person from Game I think used from 14 years ago.
Oh.
So yeah, it's like, well, what I like is, I know this game, this was at least a decade before a game started being like intentionally made with speedrunning in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I love how, even though it's not doing it on purpose, it feels almost like a fuck you to anyone who's too good at the game.
Nice.
So yeah, now we climb back up and we input the room temperature key. We get a call from Miller about Naomi, and he asks us about Foxdie directly, which supposedly kills people with a heart attack as a targeted virus weapon, and he thinks that Naomi, being a geneticist, must have been involved with that. Miller brings up that Snake was injected with something by Naomi right before the mission started. Snake is like, "Good question. Let me call Campbell." So he calls and asks Campbell about it, and Campbell's like, "Oh, I've put her under arrest for sending coded messages to Shadow Moses Island." And Miller is like, "So that must mean that the vaccine is around somewhere, right?" And Snake is like, "I don't know. I'm here to kill terrorists and stop nuclear apocalypses, not worry about sciencey shit." And he ends the call. So we climb back down Metal Gear, and we go into the freezing room where we fought Raven, wait for the key to freeze, and then we climb back up Metal Gear and input the freezing key. We get a call from Naomi, of all people. She steals a codec from somebody so that she can make a call to explain herself. She says that, yes, she lied about her identity, but she's also not completely lying. The reason that she got into genetics was to figure herself out and figure out things about her family. She says that she's not Japanese, she's from Zimbabwe, and that early in her life she met Gray Fox and thinks of him like a brother, and both of them think of Big Boss like a father, and Snake killed Big Boss and crippled Gray Fox, so she's been planning revenge on Snake for a while, but as of right now she's not so sure. She tells us that Foxdie is a vaccine that reads people's genes and it will only infect people with a certain genetic code. Snake asks if Foxdie is going to kill him, and she won't answer. Instead, she says it wasn't her idea to infect Snake with Foxdie, but rather it was part of this operation from the beginning. She says she has something else to tell him, but before she can say anything, Campbell catches her and kicks her off the call, and he won't answer any of Snake's follow-up questions about Foxdie or the operation. So we climb back down Metal Gear, and we go to the blast furnace, and we wait for the key to burn, and then we climb back up Metal Gear, and we input the burning key. And then the computer says, detonation code activated.
What?
Miller calls and says, "Thank you, Snake," and reveals what our ear for voice actors should have picked up a long time ago, and I'm mad that I didn't.
It's really weird that you don't, because it's not that subtle even.
Yeah.
They're the two characters with bad voice acting. You should pick up on this.
They both have like really over the top like fucking like faggy British voices.
Yep.
And well, no, one of them is less British is the thing. Yeah, but like My girlfriend, of all people, did not pick up on the fact that these characters are the same voice actor. Although the game does get a little bit of a cheat, I noticed. Anytime a character appears on screen for the first time, a really neat little Metal Gear stylistic tick is that instead of doing all the credits at the beginning of a game, it does the name of character, parentheses, name of voice actor, on screen the first time any character appears on screen, no matter how far into the thing it is, which is cool. You think of credits as going at the beginning of the movie and then the end of the movie, but in this game, if a character shows up halfway through, it'll just play their name and voice actor. It'll give them a credit, which I really like.
Me too.
From the perspective of just like giving credit to your fucking artist, right? Anyway, Master Miller never appears in a cutscene. He only ever appears in codec calls. So just like every other codec-only character, there's never a in-game cutscene in which you would show his voice actor. So they get away with never having to show his voice actor's name, which is cute.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I like it.
Yeah, so I don't think we straight up said it, but Master Miller and Liquid Snake are the same person.
The real Master Miller was killed a few days ago, Campbell says.
So they being Foxhound couldn't get the detonation codes out of the chief before he died in interrogation. So they got Octopus to try and get it from Snake, but then he died from Fox die. So they instead got Snake to figure out the whole key shape changing thing. So the second half of this game has just been Foxhound playing Snake like a fiddle and getting him to activate Metal
Playing him like a goddamn fiddle. Funny enough, Master Miller is the one playing you like a goddamn fiddle. Though y'all not in the know, there is a meme for MGS5 in which Master Miller, a much younger Master Miller, says that he got played by like a goddamn fiddle by somebody else. So the shoe is on the other foot. But yeah,
like most lines in this series that become memes, it's actually a good line, well delivered, but also funny and a meme.
A really good line, yeah. But yeah, so this whole game, again, shout outs to my girlfriend. This is the hugest twist in the game. I think it's stupendously hard to figure out ahead of time.
Absolutely.
And Kali figured it out like minutes before the actual twist. Like,
oh, that's great.
Kali was like pacing back and forth in our living room, like trying to put together all the fucking pieces the game had been giving us the whole time. And I was like, "You're so close. You're so close. You're so close." Here's the thing: it's actually pretty neat. The fact that that the DARPA chief was actually Ocelot, Otacon, Octopus isn't that hard to figure out. But the hard thing is, why would they do that? Why? And then it takes but the thing is, they give you all the clues. They said in a way earlier cutscene, they had a flashback about how they accidentally killed the DARPA chief. And they even say something like, "Now we'll never get that code." Which, if you think about it for a second, you're like, wait, I thought they had the code. Right? But the final piece of clue that without it, it literally doesn't make sense. They drop within minutes before, which is in that final conversation where you're overhearing them talking inside the room. The final piece of info is that the PAL key toggles the system on or off. The whole time we've just been saying it deactivates, but actually if it's inactive, it deactivates it, and if it's already active, it deactivates it. And that's the final piece you need to really actually figure it out, and they give it to you like, again, about 10 minutes earlier. So they finally drop it enough, but my girlfriend would definitely never have figured it out without my constant like encouragement, like, "Oh, you're so close, but what about this? What about this?" I cannot imagine a normal person figuring it out.
Yeah, especially
it's a really good twist.
During this big important Scooby-Doo twist is happening in the middle of another very similar twist about Naomi. So you're thinking, oh, the twist of this game is that I've been helping along the evil mad scientist that's actually behind all of this stuff. Like, you're trying to figure out the Fox die of everything. So all of the plot right now is you trying to figure out a whole separate other twist you're not paying attention to the fact that Miller has changed his tune suddenly and is calling you a lot more on the codec than he was before, and is asking a lot of leading questions about things and trying to figure out. He's doing what set us off as something weird about the DARPA chief, but we don't notice because the thing he's asking us about is a very actual, real weird thing about Naomi, and it pulls the rug out from under you, and it's
Maybe the reason Otacon explains things in such laborious detail is that by the time he's talking about it, toggles it on or off. You're like, yeah, get to the point, whatever. It's not like, oh, he just dropped a really big important piece of information, I better think about what that means. It's able to just slip by you. So
now that I think about it, this game's often, like, as Sam joked earlier, reading a Wikipedia article at you, level of over detail of every fucking concept, means you can also bury really important stuff in there because you hid the actual really important detail that'll let you figure out the twist in the middle of a 5-minute long cutscene about a bunch of other shit that, like, maybe it, like, matters in a thematic sense. Like, I find it interesting, but it's not, like, a clue to the mystery. So it's just buried in there, right? Which, I mean, I guess is just classic mystery or thriller, like, misdirection, right? But we think of it as just being one of the game's funny quirks, is that they'll just blast you with, like, a monologue about, like you called Nastasia Romanenko when she's explaining the nitty-gritty details of, like, how nuclear disposal works, or how testing bans work, like what is and isn't banned, and then they're like, haha, you missed the important part, idiot.
Yeah, there's literally a part in Liquid's upcoming monologue where he goes, the year was 1991, and it's just like, okay.
1990, characters, they just love giving you these super long details. It's really funny. Oh, in case you're curious about my whole thing about where I said the game is overly optimistic about START. So this game came out in 1998, and the START 2 treaty was signed in like in 98 or something like that. I don't remember if it was before or after the game came out, but it was like very, very, very contemporaneous with the game. Here's the thing. America never honored their end of the deal and pulled out of it in 2000, and it collapsed. So
fun times.
Which is funny because the game takes place in 2005, so that makes no sense. But so the game's like, America would never want to go against the START 2 treaty. That would ruin the reputation with the world. Meanwhile, here in the real world, that's exactly what they did, and it's still fine because we're the global superpower. So go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Snake has been getting played like a fiddle, so Liquid remotely locks the room that Snake is in and tries to gas him to death. But Otacon has, using his newly found hacker powers, and he hacks the security and lets us out. When we get out, Liquid runs off, so we chase him, and then Liquid tells us that Snake was injected with fox dye, and to bring it aboard the island to then infect everyone here. But Naomi made some secret adjustment to fox dye's programming before injecting Snake, but they couldn't figure out what she changed. But since Snake seems unaffected by it, Liquid isn't worried because he and Snake have the exact same genes because they're twins.
What?
He then goes on to say that Liquid has all of the recessive genes and Snake has all the dominant ones, so I guess they don't actually have the same genes.
And also, they don't understand that's not how genes work. But also, I think it's such common knowledge at this point that it's important to know that until this exact line, we do not know that the main character of this game, Solid Snake, is a clone.
Yeah. So it's... I'm getting a little ahead, but I put all of this together because it's very dumb and I want to get it out of the way. But Snake and Liquid were 2 out of 8 babies. They were octuplets, and they went in and purposely aborted the other 6 so that the twins would get all of the nutrients that the mother was creating for 8 babies delivered to just 2. So they got
baby method.
3 kids worth of extra junk for each of them, and then on top of that, they genetically modified the twins to make Snake have all the good shit and Liquid have all the bad shit. Liquid says that even though Liquid is the crappy recessive brother, he was Big Boss's favorite, so he's going to kill Snake for killing Big Boss. And he hops into Metal Gear, and we have a big Metal Gear Rex boss fight. He says other things.
You missed a couple very important things. His actual character motivation.
Yeah,
he's like, I love Big Boss. I hate Big Boss. No, I don't know what my motivation is.
He never says he loves Big Boss.
I know.
Solid Snake explicitly says, "Oh, is this why you're making Outer Heaven some sort of twisted love for Big Boss?" And Liquid explicitly says, "No, I hate my shitty dad," because shitty dad is the main theme of the entire series. I hate my shitty dad. That's why I'm going to accomplish the dream that he never could to prove that I'm better than him. That's very, very literally his motivation. And I think that that's very important. And also, two things. One, shitty dads, important theme of the series. Two, theme of this game specifically, the idea that you have this... The genetic stuff is all dumb when it's taken as science, but when it's taken as metaphor, it's great. Genes are destiny, and the idea is a lot of the characters in this game are trying to rebel against their destiny, but Liquid isn't rebelling against his destiny. His way of dealing with his cursed fate is to lean into it and seize hold of it. And he's saying, like, he's... Actually, it's like Off-Haven, sublation. It's actually a Hegelian / Marx term. But the idea that you don't go against something or go with it, you surpass it. You rise to another level of it.
Yeah, he literally says he wants to go beyond.
Yeah, so he's not being chained to his fate and controlled by his fate. But he's also not rebelling against his fate, because guess what? Rebelling against your fate is just negation, which means you're still being controlled by your fate. Because if you tell your mom, you don't tell me what to do, and then do the exact opposite, that means that what you're doing is still controlled by what your parents told you to do. So he's negating the negation by saying, no, I'm actually going to do exactly what you told me, but on my own terms, and yeah, supersede my destiny is what he's saying here. So, and then you shoot him in the face and he dies. So, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you shoot him in the face, then he dies. Then you shoot him in the face, then he dies. Then you shoot him in the face, and he dies. Then he dies for unrelated reasons.
Yes. So,
and then he's arm. I'm not going to explain more of that.
So in the big Metal Gear Rex boss fight, Otacon calls us and tells us that we have to use Stinger missiles to blow up its sensors, so that Liquid will have to open the cockpit and look manually, and so then once the cockpit's open, we can then shoot Liquid directly. The boss fight is really hard if you try to do it as a boss, but if you do it as a cheesy big giant thing that you can stand behind and it can't see you because it's really big, it's trivial, which I think is kind of cool, because I was engaging with it like a Mega Man boss fight because I had just binged 2 Mega Man games, and you can't do that. Missiles are designed to blow up big.
How can you shoot the cockpit if you're behind it, though?
It hangs down like a ding-a-ling, and you can just shoot it.
So here's how.
I was fighting it from the front, and
hold on, we haven't destroyed the radome yet.
That's what I use sensors, because I think the radome is a stupid word. I talked about it. I said
but there's an important. Okay, but there's an important cutscene in between the part where you shoot the radome and the part where you shoot the cockpit.
I haven't gotten to that part yet.
Okay, but you can't shoot its cockpit from behind until phase 2 of the fight.
Does Metal Gear actually have different attacks between the two phases of the fight?
No, except...
Then what I'm about to say doesn't... It works
mechanically they're very different. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was fighting it from the front, and I found that if I just ran towards it when it shot missiles, I could avoid them, and then if I ran away, I could shoot the radome or the thing, but the timing was very hard. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
you can't shoot it from behind if it's the radome. You just can't.
You can, because I did it. You just aim over there, and it'll do it. You just hide under its legs, and then you walk behind it, and then you shoot the radome to the side of it.
I think you're missing, maybe. I think you're mixing up phases 1 and 2. That's okay. But the important part that I wanted to mention is, I actually agree with Sam that those missiles are really hard. Bernard said he ran towards it to avoid the missiles. I thought that was true, but then I would try it and it would work, and then I would try it again and it wouldn't work.
It only works if you're a certain distance away from him to start.
Right. So the thing is, if you think they do attack X and therefore you do Y, you're wrong. It's all about spacing. Mm-hmm. The important thing isn't react correctly to the missiles, it's be the correct distance from him when he does the missiles. If you're too far, the arc of them is going to be such a shallow arc that you just can't fucking do it. If you're close, they have a high arc and you can avoid them easily. And if you're more close, he doesn't use the missiles. So it's one of those bosses where what attacks he uses is based on where you are. So manipulating his AI into using the attacks that are easier to dodge is how you beat him. And it's but the two phases are very different because it's something that it's something I was going to talk about in my min-moms, but I guess I'll mention it later. But yeah, the second phase is unique in a very special way that I'll say something about later.
I couldn't really remember the differences between the phases because I did phase 1 and did a save state so that I wouldn't have to fight phase 1 again because I'm pretty sure you have to. And then I tried fighting phase 2 a bunch of times, kept getting owned, turned off the game, slept, then went back to it.
That would explain. Yeah, for me, I didn't use save states, so I had to fight both phases multiple times. Fun fact, second phase, actually a lot easier, but there's kind of a trick to it. Whereas the first phase is just kind of hard. Like
Also,
period,
the second phase, I was out of rations.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is you got to do really... It's one of those, like any real old school game, modern games are too nice to you, so they don't really make you do this. Like, modern games would give you, like, a refill or give you, like, items that respawn around the field. This game is like, no, like, you can't just beat phase 1. You got to beat it real good. Because if you don't beat it real good, you're not going to get through phase 2. Yeah. And I respect that old school design sensibility.
Yeah, so after we get the first health bar down, the sensors that were blowing up still aren't dead yet. So we get some help from Gray Fox, the ninja, who confirms that he's been Deep Throat and been helping us the whole time. Gray Fox does a bunch of acrobatic fucking pirouettes off the handle and fights Metal Gear 1v1, and it's really fucking cool. Somehow in the middle of this, they find a moment to have a really long conversation and without getting blown up. And they talk about Naomi, and Fox says that he hasn't been able to face her because he's the one that killed her parents. So he asks Snake as a final request to tell Naomi about that, and he flips away and destroys the sensors for us. But when he does, Metal Gear pins him against the wall and cuts off his arm. And so Liquid opens the cockpit and is like, "Oh, you can shoot me now if you want to, but it will blow up. It'll blow up Fox, so you can't do it." And sure enough, if you press the shoot button, Snake says, "I can't do it.
Can't do it."
It's no. He has only 2 lines, and he alternates. One of them is just I can't do it, and I think the other one is it's no use. I think it's longer. I think it's like it's no use. Oh, no, it's no use, I can't do it is one of the lines. Mm-hmm. The other one is something else. I can't remember, but they're both the same shit, but it's just, it's funny.
Yeah. So because we won't kill Fox, Liquid does it for us, and he kills Fox, and we have the second half of the boss fight, which is also cheesed by standing behind it. So the second one is when the cockpit hangs down and you can shoot it between the legs. Yeah. The other one, you just stand farther behind it and shoot to the side of it. So it's the same strategy. You just can't shoot it between the legs.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not that much of a big deal. The reason I like the second part of the boss is, again, they bring back the actual ostensible stealth action from the game. Mm-hmm. In the first boss battle phase, because he's using a big electronic sensor to see. He knows exactly where you are at all times because he's a video game, so of course the video game knows where the player is. But in the second phase, he's literally using his eyes in the cockpit, and he has a vision cone, and you can actually use stealth. If you're out of his vision cone, he'll lose track of you and not know where you are, which is really cool. And when he does that, like in the first phase, if you're behind him, he'll just immediately rotate. But in this one, if he phases, he'll like look around, like he'll rotate a little bit left, rotate a little bit right. He doesn't know where you are. And you can use that to catch a breather, to put some space between you and him, go get an item in the corner. And once you realize that they've brought back the whole stealth vision cone mechanic from the regular part of the game, it's a lot easier. And also, I think it's really good. It's a much more interesting fight than this first phase, which is just kind of, you gotta shoot him and dodge his attacks.
Yeah. The first one wants you to fight it like a Mega Man boss because it kind of is, and doing the dev intended strategy for the second phase against the first one is definitely cheesing it. It is not supposed to be done that way. You're supposed to like chaff grenades so that it can't see you, so you can pop out of cover and shoot it and all that stuff in the first one. Standing underneath it is definitely cheesy. Anywho, we defeat Rex and it explodes, and when it explodes, Snake is caught in the explosion and he blacks out. When he comes to, he's shirtless, and so is Liquid, and they have to settle this mano a mano.
And a lot of things are on fire.
A lot of things are on fire. It is.
Oh, and very importantly, you're on top of the Metal Gear.
Yeah, it is very much the somehow it's raining and also there's a loose electrical cable, so there's sparks everywhere moment of this game. Liquid says that even without Metal Gear, he's still going to work on Big Boss's dying wish, a world where soldiers are respected as they should be, instead of war being fought like pencil pushers in a room somewhere. Liquid asks why Snake still follows the orders when his superiors have shown themselves to all be lying douches. Snake can't answer, but Liquid says it's easy. It's because Snake enjoys the killing because he's a sicko warrior dude, just like Liquid. Liquid then spends a lot of time reading the first paragraph of Hideo Kojima's favorite Wikipedia articles, and the point of which, when he gets to the end, is that the genome soldiers also share Big Boss's DNA. So to Liquid, they're his family, and you are hard-coded in nature to protect those with your genetic code, protect your family. He reveals that he has Meryl lying there, strapped to a bomb or something. I don't know. The Meryl ending is technically the good ending, but I like the Otacon ending better.
Yeah, I got the Meryl ending because I cheated at the torture scene, but the Otacon ending is better. And
it's a much better ending.
Yeah.
He says, it's funny, he says that the bomb is tied to her vitals and that it'll go off when she dies, but it has a very specific exact time limit, which is really weird. It's like, wait, is this a bomb that is set for 3 minutes, and when it hits 0, we all die, including Meryl? Or is Meryl going to die of natural causes because she's on death's door, and then when she dies, the bomb will go off? They imply that it's the latter, but A, that makes no sense, and B, mechanically, it's the former.
Yes.
Whatever. There's a fucking time limit, and Meryl's there. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, who gives a shit? So, Snake calls Campbell on the codec, and Campbell tells us that the Pentagon has ordered a nuclear strike on Shadow Moses Island to bury all of the evidence of this operation and just kind of walk away. It was like, oh, weird, a nuclear test site exploded, and I guess sucks to be all the scientists that died, sort of thing. But then Campbell gets arrested by the Secretary of Defense, James Houseman.
There's a third character in this game with bad voice acting. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So James Houseman basically tells us that he's been in charge the whole time, and tells us to give him Metal Gear's test data or he's going to blow us up. We don't have it because Ocelot took it. This also came up earlier in conversation, but it wasn't important there. It's important now that Ocelot has the test data, and James Houseman is like, oh, well, sucks to be you. I'm going to send the nukes. So Liquid is like, even though we're both going to die, I want to kill you to prove that I'm better than you. So let's settle this hand to hand. And now we have a boss fight that's just some guy. And now we have to fist fight Liquid. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but this game kind of controls like ass, doesn't it?
I love this fight. Yeah, the game controls like ass. I think this fight rules. You got to punch him. He tries to punch you. Both the time limit and the health bar are pretty tricky. Mm-hmm. If you're too aggressive, you'll get health barred to death. If you're too loosey-goosey, you'll get time limited to death. One fun, cute thing is that he says there's a time limit for, what is it? Is it 3 minutes?
Yeah, it's
I think
3
it's
minutes.
3.
And he sets the timer, and it's 3 minutes, and then they just stand there for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is that the cutscene keeps going, so the time limit is going down during the cutscene. So you lose 30 seconds of time limit during the cutscene setting up battle. Fun fact, though, is if you die and get a continue and then skip the cutscene, you get 3 entire minutes.
Nice.
So it's very fun. I think even on your first time, like if you just hit like the skip cutscene button, you get the full time limit. It's very silly.
That's amazing.
But yeah, he runs around, you run around. You need to like bait him. You know, you bait him into an attack and then you punch him. Sometimes you want to just punch him twice because then he'll do a counter. He does have stealth phases. Like he does change up his moveset. He has at least 2 phases, maybe 3. The third phase he starts doing this really powerful like long lunge at you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to explain something that I'm not sure if this is right or if I just imagined it, but I'm wondering if this is true. I think that you can't just kill him by depleting his health bar. I think you explicitly did y'all manage to? Because I'm in the game. You can also get knocked off the edge.
Uh-huh.
And if you get knocked off the edge, you'll grab the ledge and hang, and then you got to get back up, right? Which doesn't hurt you, but it does lose you some time, right?
Uh-huh.
In the first phase, you really can't knock him off at all. Farther in the game, though, if you hit him, he's like weaker. So if you hit him pretty good, he will fall off the edge and then grab on the ledge and then pull himself back up. But I'm pretty sure the only way to actually beat him is not get his health to 0. It's get his health to 0 and do a move that knocks him off the stage. So
Yes.
in Super Smash Bros.
I can't
rules,
believe how long it took you to ask that question.
Oh,
But
sorry, I
the
was just
answer is
leading
yes.
up to it. Okay, yeah, it's really cool. I wasn't sure if I had just coincidentally thought that or if it was actually true. That's
As far as I know, that's the case. But then
Yeah,
again,
so
we
if-
thought that
yeah.
Ocelot could detect auto fire, and that was corrected in the comments.
yeah.
Yes.
So if you punch him to death to 0 in the middle of like the arena, he won't die. And that's neat because when you finally knock him off the stage, it quick flashes to a cutscene where yes, he falls off and dies. It's cool. But also
Well,
I like how
he
it's
doesn't die.
super. Well, okay, yeah, but as far as you know, he dies. This is the second time. So no, this is the third time because the first time was the helicopter behind D. The second time is the Metal Gear, and the third time is just now. So this is the third time so far that you think he died.
Yeah. I did not notice his health bar not completely depleting until I knocked him off. In my mind, I got his health bar down to 0 and then kicked him off in a cutscene. So I don't know. I don't know myself, but I did try to throw him off without taking his health bar down, and that did not work.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just punch him near the edge, and it's the punch that gets him down, and he's already near the edge, he'll fall off.
Yeah.
But anyway,
cool.
Meryl dies or doesn't.
Yeah. So Snake will eventually knock Liquid off of Metal Gear and save Meryl. Snake and Meryl have a heart-to-heart about how much they love each other, despite how long the script went out of its way to say that both these characters are asexual.
And also, they've known each other very briefly and have had 4 conversations.
Mm-hmm. But the base is definitely going to be nuked, so we got to get out of there.
And they definitely had a mentor-apprentice mentee relationship, not a romantic one.
Mm-hmm.
They have 0 chemistry. I actually think they do have chemistry, but not romantic chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never really bought the love story aspect of this, and that's part of the reason why the Otacon ending is better, because the Snake and Otacon being bros works really well,
better,
and these two being lovebirds
feels
does
like
not.
they pulled out of their ass at the end because that's what you do at the end of an 80s action thriller is the guy has to get the girl at the end, but the rest of the game had 0 interest in doing that, which is cool. It makes it unique.
It's dumb. But Otacon calls us on the codec and says that he's going to do some hacking to help us escape, but he'll stay behind and get nuked so that we don't have to. We run with Meryl to the back of the hangar where there are jeeps are that we can ride to safety. This game breaks its own rules, and it has downsides aiming for the first time in a bespoke minigame in which you can't use your codec to ask what the fuck you're supposed to do. So I definitely died to this because there's one phase of Liquid that the default height doesn't hit him in the head. So I was like, what the fuck do I do? And he just killed me.
Yeah, they don't tell you. Like, if you just normally shoot, it's like third person and you shoot, and it's really hard to aim good. But if you hit the first person view button, the triangle button, you can actually aim while shooting, which again is a pretty common thing for video games nowadays, but is not a mechanic in this game. But it does make it way easier. So, pro tip, you can shoot in first person in this part of the game.
Yeah. Halfway through the escape sequence, Liquid shows that he isn't dead yet, and he's in a jeep trying to stop us. After we get his health bar down, he pulls out in front of us, and we swerve to miss him, and both jeeps crash.
And he surely dies in the crash.
He's definitely dead.
Yeah, Meryl is like, "Are you okay?" And Snake looks up and is like, "Liquid is dead."
he says that, and it's so weird. I'm like, how do you know? And at this point, why would you assume?
So Snake and Meryl are pinned underneath their jeep, and sure enough, Liquid isn't actually dead. He walks over with a gun.
It's not over yet. Is that when he says this?
No, he says that when he drives up in the jeep.
Well, whatever. It's a good line.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So he comes over with a gun to shoot us dead, and there's nothing we can do to stop him. But then he drops to the ground in a heart attack because Fox Die has taken him.
Well, more importantly, he drops to the ground and then dramatically raises up his hand and goes, "Fox!"
And then Snake says, "Die!"
Yeah, it's really corny. It rules. And he's actually definitely dead for real this time. I'm not being ironic. He is actually dead. Is he going to come back later? Yes, but not for normal reasons.
But he is dead.
He is actually dead. His coming back later doesn't make him not dead right now.
Yes. Snake
and actually, if you play MGS5, and we'll stop there.
Yes,
that's right.
Snake is like, okay, well, if he died and we're clones, that means I'm about to die. And Meryl is like, don't think about it. Don't speak it into existence. They both look up and realize that they haven't been nuked. So they call Campbell, and Campbell's like, hey, Houseman has been arrested. Him ordering a nuclear strike out of nowhere was a red flag. So the government found out that this whole thing was him acting extra judiciously. I couldn't say that. And so that
pisciously.
And so arresting Houseman is a lot easier of a way to handle this than nuking Alaska. So Snake is like, so about this Fox Die, what's going to happen? And Campbell is like, Meryl won't die. You don't have to worry about it. And Snake was like, but what about me? And he's like, I'll let Naomi handle that one. So we talked to
Naomi doesn't handle it.
She does not. She very pointedly does not.
This is one of my favorite parts of the game, even though it's also infuriating. He's like, Naomi, I have a very simple answer. Like, we all know you wanted revenge on me and you wanted to kill me. We also know that, as far as we know, your orders were not to make Fox Die kill me. I was just a vector. But also, and I cannot express this enough, you definitely hated me, wanted revenge on me, and wanted to kill me. So, did you program Fox Die with my DNA to make me dead? There's really no way besides saying yes or no to this question. It's not one of those things you can finesse. And she's like, Snake, the important thing is that you just live, laugh, love. Okay? Like, it's not, what matters isn't your genes, but what you do with your genes. Like, no, but like, that's all fine. I agree with you, but can you please answer the question?
It's a beautiful little speech. It's sort of inspiring and stuff, but
but it's also insane and like what it's like
not what Snake needs to hear right now.
And the thing is, it clearly doesn't kill Snake because he shows up in later games. So if it wasn't going to kill Snake, why did she just say no? I think that I guess she just thought it was more important to put the fear of the Lord in him and make him learn a valuable life lesson, and that it's not about whether you die or not. It's about the friends you made along. I guess she just thinks it's more important in this moment to like give him a moral lesson than to like make him not be terrified of dying.
Well, here's the thing. She clearly changed her mind about wanting revenge on him at some point during this whole operation. However, maybe she
still injected him.
Yeah, but she still wants some revenge, so she's going to get that just by fucking with him.
So maybe she's just going to let him cook, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's like, am I going to
let him cook is a poor choice of words considering what happens in MGS4.
Yeah, good point. She also lets him cook in that, yeah. But yeah, she's just like, you know what? I'm not going to tell you. Like, if she did it in like a villainous way, it would make a lot more sense. Yes. Yeah. She was like, I'm not telling you because I hate you. Go fuck yourself. And he's like, nail me. But no, instead she's like, Snake, I love you. You need to live your life. Anyway, bye.
So right before all of that, she asks what happened to Gray Fox, and Snake lies to her in a cool way, and he is like, "Oh, Gray Fox is like, don't dwell on the past, go on living your life." He says that he loves you, and he always had, and then he died a hero, saving the whole world. He did not follow Gray Fox's last request and tell her that.
Wait, maybe she knows that you're lying. Maybe she independently found out the truth that he killed her parents, and because you lied to her, that's why she won't tell you. 30 seconds later, she decides, you know what, fuck this guy, actually.
Yeah, because she was sending coded messages to the island, and that plot point was never brought up again. Yeah. So maybe she was.
Okay, I know I've already joked about this 20 times, but I found my favorite way to characterize her response. He's like, please tell me if you inject me with Fox dye or not. And she goes, no, heart.
So yeah, she says, choose life and then live. I'm going to do the same. So Snake and Meryl make their way down to a nearby snowmobile that Mei Ling saw on satellite. And Snake says that he's done living just for himself, and now he wants to live for someone else, someone like Meryl. And they ride off into the sunset.
It's dumb.
It's so dumb.
Also, she asks his real name, and he says his real name is David.
And she immediately calls him Dave instead. And I'm like, he said his name was David.
I guess if he's in love with her, which he apparently is.
As someone who is named David and does not like being called Dave, I was like, excuse me.
I agree. But when you're in a romantic relationship with someone, they get to call you whatever you want, and you get to not like it. My ex-girlfriend, y'all know I had that second girlfriend for a while. She always called me a diminutive of Maddie Grace that I really didn't like. Like, if anyone else called me that, I would have been like, don't call me that. Not like it's bad in a conceptual way, just aesthetically, I didn't like how it sounded. But when the person you love calls you that, you're like, yeah, sure, you can call me that. It's cute, actually. But like, after we broke up, I was like, I'm never letting anyone else call me that. First of all, that was our special thing. Second of all, I don't like it.
But anyway, in an alternate timeline, are we going to cover the alternate timeline? It's pretty much the same.
Yeah, I did not play it, and it's not in the.
It's exactly the same. It's almost the same, except for the dialogue's all completely different, but it's the same basic vibe, except that Snake and Otacon are best buds. I think Meryl's just never mentioned again.
Meryl dies. I watched part of it, and Otacon has a speech about how love endures and shit, and then there's a really at the very end when they're on the snowmobile. Snake says his name is David.
This is the important part.
And Otacon immediately calls him Dave because they are in love.
And then Snake, not Otacon, at this point, he's like, oh no, Snake says, my name's David. Otacon says, David, and then he goes, so, same, this is also Meryl's line, so, where to, Dave? And then Snake, very hilariously, turns back and looks at him and he goes, Hal and Dave, pretty funny. And they both go, in-game character models like jaw slapping down as they're chuckling to themselves about the fact that their names are Hal and Dave.
And he says, maybe we should take a trip to Jupiter.
That's amazing.
It's really good.
It's really, really good. It's so fucking
honestly,
stupid. And it's such a better ending.
Yeah, honestly, everything about the ending just hits better, and we get more insight into Otacon, who is a character that I'm more invested in than Meryl.
Yeah,
and so,
very slightly spoil MGS2, aka the opening cutscene of MGS2. Snake and Otacon are, at the beginning of the next game, it's like 4 years later. It takes place, no, 2 years later, 2007. It takes place 2 years later. Snake and Otacon are now like best friends.
Mm-hmm.
They are best buds, and they're like action superhero team where he's the big hero and Otacon's the behind the scenes hacker guy who's his backup. They've been working together for the last 2 years. Meryl is never mentioned again in the entire series until she comes back in MGS4.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if Meryl was never mentioned in MGS2.
Maybe it's a throwaway line. Those games have lots of dialogue, but me as someone who's played them a lot, cannot remember her ever being mentioned. And in MGS4, it also implies that after MGS1, they I don't know, maybe they dated for 5 seconds and then it immediately went sour because I don't know, Snake's an asshole or something. They don't explain it, but we do know that things didn't go very well, and Meryl is mad at him, I guess, for dishing him for his boyfriend Hal. But yeah, it's weird that the Meryl survives ending is technically this game is very loose. This series is really loosey-goosey with canon, so honestly, the answer to which of these endings is canon is definitely both of them.
Yes. Yeah. Because Snake and Otacon definitely bonded.
The Snake and Otacon ending makes way more sense than MGS2, but we also know that Meryl isn't dead, so...
Yeah.
The best explanation would be somehow they thought Meryl was dead, but they didn't actually check her pulse or something, and she was alive. And
which I guess is what happens with the Otacon one too, because Otacon says, "I'll stay behind and get nuked," and then they don't drop the nukes. So it's kind of similar, right? So yeah, maybe it's just Snake and Otacon right off into the sunset. Meryl wasn't actually dead.
Yeah, but anyway.
So then you wait through all of the cutscenes and all of the credits, and then at the end of the credits, you hear a phone call with Ocelot.
You hear one end of the call, so Ocelot will say a line, and then there will be silence because presumably the other person on the other end of the phone is saying something. That it's doing that trope where he's like, "That's right, da 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 da."
Mm-hmm. And I think you should just read the whole line.
Okay. It's not that long.
Interesting and important, and it's not long.
I only have the video up. I don't have the script up.
Let me post. I have the script up. I will post it in the host chat, the line.
Cool. Yeah, it's very quick to find the game script.
There it is.
So Ocelot says, "Yes, sir. The entire unit was wiped out. Those two are still alive. The Vector? Yes, sir. Foxdie should become activated soon. Right on schedule. Yes, sir. I recovered all of Rex's dummy warhead data. No, sir. My cover is intact. Nobody knows who I really am. Yes, the DARPA chief knew my identity, but he's been disposed of. Yes, the inferior one was the winner after all. That's right. Until the very end, Liquid thought he was the inferior one. Yes, sir. I agree completely. It takes a well-balanced individual, such as yourself, to rule the world. No, sir. No one knows that you were the third one. Solidus."
What?
"What should I do about the woman?" "Yes, sir. I'll keep her under surveillance." "Yes, thank you. Goodbye, Mr. President."
What? It's so good. It's so fucking good. First of all,
I love this.
Noticed there was another twist here I didn't really think about. I didn't think about the third line. The Vector, yes, Foxeye should become activated soon. I didn't realize that line, actually. So that kind of implies that Foxdie is dormant and will get more activated, which does lead to the "is Snake going to die literally 5 minutes after this game is over?" question. They never really follow up on that, so I don't know what that means. But yeah, then we learn there's a third clone named Solidus, and then we learn that he's the president of the United States. And contrary to...
And we also learned that Ocelot was like a fucking triple agent, and he's the most important character in the game.
And that, this entire operation was not being done autonomously by the Secretary of Defense or whatever, but in fact goes all the way to the top, all along. Plausible deniability and all that. Isn't that how it always goes? I mean, look, all three of us went to Bader University, okay? We know that when an inferior does something and says, my superiors were never aware of this, I covered it all up. You know the cover-up goes all the way to the top. Kenneth.
Yes.
What a bastard.
What a
For those of all you don't know, there was a huge sex scandal at our alma mater where some people were doing a lot of sex crimes, but the coach of the football team never let anyone know about it because it would ruin our very good football team. And after like a year of constant cover-up and then exposure of cover-ups, yes, it did turn out the president of the entire college knew about it the entire time and was complicit in the cover-up because he's a bastard. It also was the third super baby. Les Enfants terribles. But anyway. It also like that also implies that like if the president was behind all of this and it all went just according to plan, then therefore all of this was actually not about any of these individual characters trying to accomplish any individual goals, but was about this other guy Solidus trying to set up and accomplish some bigger, much more complex, much more dastardly goal. I'll go ahead and spoil it. This is not really followed up on a whole lot. I mean, all of this is in MGS2, but I can't say that this was definitely one of those, they were just putting some shit out there to make you go, what? And when they made an actual sequel, it does get followed up on, but not like I could not possibly explain how anything that happened in MGS1 was part of Solidus's plan in MGS2. That doesn't make any fucking sense to me. So, whatever.
Yeah. But this just, the idea of something ending with someone saying, goodbye, Mr. President, is just burned into my brain as like a trope, and I can't even think of another example of it.
The only trope it is that the Metal Gear series itself, at the end of every game after this one, ends with a mysterious phone call, usually by Ocelot, though not always. And it does almost always end with the final twist of you learning who they're talking to. And it's like you're surprised by the person that they're talking to. But it's not always the president, of course. But just the...
What if it was always the president?
Also,
like a different president of a different place.
This series was doing the post-credits sequel tie-in thing way before it became like an expected feature of any Hollywood franchise. I'm not saying nobody knew we'd ever done it before, but like it used to be like hey, make sure to stay behind at the end. There's something after credits. Nowadays, you have to tell someone if there's not something after the credits.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll be disappointed and say, how come Nick Fury didn't show up at the end? I hate this. This movie's stupid because
Oppenheimer.
My favorite joke on that ever was when the Harry Potter movies were finally coming out, and the last one was there. The books were a phenomenon. Everyone knew what was going to happen. There was no surprises in that movie whatsoever. But on Reddit, people were like, "Make sure you stay after the credits because Nick Fury shows up and takes Harry Potter into the Avengers."
You know what's the problem is if they made the Harry Potter movies about a decade later, that would have fucking happened because Disney would have purchased the rights at some point, and now we would have Harry Potter being like part of like the Inhumans or some fucking shit like that. I'm gonna kill myself.
Is it Universal? Whatever it is, they are trying to find ways to extend the life of that franchise. So I wouldn't count it out yet.
And they're trying, also, Universal has tried and failed like 3 times to make some kind of, like, cinematic universe style thing. Like, wasn't the Dark Universe was them, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
And it didn't work at all. Now, the Monster Universe is going pretty well, if you ask me. But yeah, if the Harry Potter movies had been a decade later, you would have Harry Potter, like, it'd be like, Godzilla versus Kong 3. Now Harry Potter's there. Oh man, we really dodged a bullet there. Thank God.
Yeah. Anywho, let's talk about our memorable moments and then wrap up for today.
I've just got just a couple. One, you mentioned that we all talked about how much we liked the Vulcan Raven fight. I gotta say, the build up to the Vulcan Raven fight was really, really good. Mm-hmm. This game has 2 giant freight elevators. I've always been a big fan of freight elevators as a dramatic element, because it's like, what if a normal elevator, but it moved really slow, and instead of being an enclosing that moves down, it's moving diagonally, and usually there's open space. So you get this, I don't know, it's just good drama. It's like a train, but slow, right? Like Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops has a boss battle on a freight elevator, but you have to go down these 2 freight elevators at one point, and then at least once come up both of them as well. Mm-hmm. So that's 4 freight elevator rides, although there might be 5 or 6 in there. And every single time, all of this final act's backtracking is just an excuse to have more time to do codec conversations. Why did they make you run back and forth 50 times? Because every time you have to run backwards, another plot twist happens, right? Mm-hmm. The plot is happening off screen while you're running around getting informed of it via your headphones. Anyway, so I guess that's one of my memos, is how this game uses backtracking as a way to keep the player nominally engaged while dropping lore at you. And then the second thing is, as you're going down that freight elevator, there's all these crows. And as I said before, it's like each boss, the area around their boss arena is like their domain, right? It's like their territory. So, of course, if you're getting close to him, you're hearing the crows, and there's more and more and more of them as the elevator descends. And also, it clearly is getting colder and colder and colder because the particle effects on the screen and the snake's breath and stuff, and the sound design is making it clear that you're getting colder and colder and colder as you descend. So I really, really liked that.
Similarly for Raven, this is the second time in my life that me having a spoiler made me expect things, and because I was primed for the wrong twist, I had a better time doing it. But I'm guessing it's Metal Gear Solid 2, because that's the next time that you play as a young Snake. There is a scene where there are ravens and there is dramatic lighting, and you think you see Vulcan Raven, and it turns out it's a doll or something. I thought that was in this game right before this fight, and so I was like,
LMAO.
Where's that going to fit in? Where is that going to happen? I'm waiting for that thing. So when I saw the ravens, I was like, I know it's coming up soon, but it's obviously not going to be in the next room. And then when you kill Raven and he dies off screen because the PlayStation can't show people getting eaten to death by birds very well, I was like, there's going to be something else, because I remember that scene, but it's from a different game. So there's that. And I thought it primed me for the wrong thing, so that when the actual thing happened, I experienced it more fully.
All right.
And I like that. I like that a lot.
So Liquid says, 1991, the Gulf War. The military secretly injected soldiers with the soldier genes. The Gulf War syndrome that hundreds of thousands of returning soldiers complained about was a side effect of it. And Snake is like, everybody knows that the Gulf War syndrome was caused by exposure to depleted uranium used in anti-tank rounds. And I was like, oh yeah, I knew that. Everyone knows that.
Everyone knows that.
I know about Gulf War syndrome and that it was caused by exposure to depleted uranium in anti-tank rounds.
Yeah.
Probably more people who weren't born in 1991 know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. This game is just so much more a product of its time geopolitically than I remembered it all. Like, there's so much end of history in this game. There's a lot of Gulf War in this game, just across the board. There's a lot of, like, you know, they don't like name drop MK Ultra or anything. There's a lot of MK Ultra in this whole thing.
Isn't that Mortal Kombat 3?
Sure. There's a lot of, like the Kurdish Turkish stuff that was happening in the late 80s. Like, it's really got its finger on the pulse in a way that is just really, really cool. One thing I like, I both hate this and love this. It is so stupid how little fucking stealth is actually in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like is, you want to know how many actual screens of stealth, like how many literal levels are in this game, and I don't count backtracking, of course. Like, which I mean, like, an area where there's guys walking around and you gotta somehow avoid them. Guess how many of those are actually in this game? This ostensibly stealth action game.
The first 4 of the game, and then the one guy at the end.
Well, you forgot about the blast furnace, which is quite good.
Yeah.
This game has precisely 8. That's right, it's got 8 levels, which, fun fact, is a very subtle and clever reference to Super Mario Brothers. Okay, have I let that cook for long enough to reveal that I am, in fact, making that up?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure. I don't know, Kojima's a weird guy, but I just want to make clear that I did make that up.
That's not nearly
8.
stupid enough a reference.
Yeah.
That's something that I can't imagine, making a video game where you decide to make it have 8 chapters instead of 7 explicitly to reference Super Mario Brothers.
That would be silly.
That'd be because chapter 7 was too long.
Yes.
Um,
And if you did make that game, I would hope that it would disappear forever and no one would be able to see it.
That's
so
right.
that no one would know.
That's right.
Anyway, do we have any more memorable moments?
I've been holding on to that joke for literally a month.
Good for you. Good joke.
Yeah. My other memorable moments, I wrote the notes, so I got to squeeze them in. So the Liquid speaks as if he's doing a PowerPoint presentation. Like,
he really does.
It never stopped tickling me pink. Like,
Well, I've been scrolling through the script and I just found something that I found funny. Liquid goes, "Have you ever heard of the asymmetry theory? Nature tends to favor asymmetry. Those species which have gone extinct all show signs of symmetry. The genome soldiers suffer from the same problem, signs of symmetry. So do I, as do you." And then he doesn't explain what he means by showing signs of symmetry.
no.
Yeah, it's definitely just Kojima or somebody else like read a thing and didn't really get it and decided to put it in the game. Also, I finally there's a reference that's been tingling in my brain this whole time, and I finally remembered it. Like, that final little guy who gives us so much trouble, even though he's just a random guy. I realized that what he was reminding me of. He was reminding me of Marauder Shields.
Yes.
Mass Effect 3.
Fuck Marauder Shields.
Yeah, he's the Marauder. He's the original Marauder Shields. I'm not gonna. If you don't know what that is, just look it up. It was a really short-lived, very weird meme about a really, actually good game, but the fact that Marauder Shields became such a meme is tied to the reasons why Mass Effect 3 is stupid. If Mass Effect 3 wasn't stupid, Marauder Shields would not have become a meme. Let's put it that way.
One other memorable moment I had is I was watching the credits and I was like, wow, video games used to be made by way fewer people.
They sure did.
Because you watch the credits and everything is like Hideo Kojima, Yoshikazu Matsuhana, and like 3 other people. Tomokazu Fukushima, I think, is one of them. I'm looking at the credits now and just trying to pick out all the ones that I noticed come up a million times in the credits for a million different roles.
Yeah,
so
things definitely used to be that way.
Yeah, and it must have been really difficult. And I didn't realize that Yoji Shinkawa didn't just do like character designs and promotional art and stuff. Apparently, Yoji Shinkawa also did like storyboards and stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very, 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 very well. I would say like this game's, it's like cinematography like doesn't like hold up as well as if it was like a movie, you wouldn't be like, man, that movie had great cinematography and directing, but like. It's got a very distinct visual language that it sticks to for its entirety, and it's very effective.
Mm-hmm.
Also, considering they were kind of inventing this from whole cloth, because games weren't doing this yet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, another thing that I noticed last night, and I forgot until just now as I was looking through the credits along with Bernard just now. But when the movie unit, the live action footage unit credits start, it instead of being a black screen is now live action footage that they gathered for the thing, and there's like shots of polar bears and nature and shit going underneath the rest of the credits just cuz, and it's great.
Oh yeah, this game, I really like this game's use of stock footage, FMV. Like he'll be like, have you ever heard of the super baby method? And then it'll like have stock footage of like some scientists doing like shit with petri dishes, or like stock footage of like nuclear missiles launching, or like polar bears, nature. Oh yeah, none of us mentioned the lovely song that plays at the end.
Mm-hmm.
The credit song is a song in some other ass language. I don't know what.
I don't know. I forget which one.
Anyway, it's a gorgeous like
Gaelic.
That's right. I kind of thought it was Gaelic, but I didn't want to say it because I don't know shit about shit.
Neither do I.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Gaelic ass sounding like folksy song, and it's called "The Best Is Yet to Come," which is an interesting name for a song. I mean, you wouldn't know that unless you like looked at the. I guess in the credits, it has like music credits, sung by Rika Muranaka, I think. And it's just a beautiful.
Written by Rika Muranaka and is sung in Gaelic by someone with a Gaelic name that I don't know how to pronounce.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, wait, I have this name in my head, but I feel like this Japanese one probably wouldn't be singing the song that's in Gaelic. Okay, well, written by Rika Muranaka. I think it's a really beautiful song.
Mm-hmm.
Also, tonally, totally different from the whole game is like heavy, like moody industrial music. Mm-hmm. It's got lots of like choirs as well, like heavy choirs and electronic stuff. So to end with these beautiful shots of them out in nature and this beautiful sort of like Gaelic ass song, like it's really cool, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on with it thematically. Besides that, it's just neat. It's evocative, but I've never really thought exactly about in what way it's so evocative. Like it's not like humans versus like nature is like a theme of the game. Like humans are bad and we're destroying nature, like Chrono Cross. Like that's not really a thing in this game. So I don't know. It's cool though.
One thing I want to point out, I was looking at the credits and I realized, most of these people are not the names that I know as voicing these characters. Like,
they're mostly pseudonyms.
Is credited as James Flinders, and I was like, that's not the name Cam Clark. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I tried to find just now why that is, and according to Wikipedia, it's reportedly this was done because the Screen Actors Guild's rules at the time were unclear regarding performances for video games.
That's what it was.
That's right. Yo, shout outs to SAG-AFTRA on strike right now. Get their asses.
But yeah, Metal Gear Solid owns. I'm glad it finally clicked for me because it's always it was my older brother Bolivar has played 2 video games that I'm aware of, and they are The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2.
Came out the exact same year.
Yeah, and that was the last time he ever played video games. And so watching over his shoulder when he played Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 was like a formative part of my life, and I've always loved it in general and wanted to do it, but I just bounced so hard off of the controls for MGS1, and it's definitely not a series you can just start on the second one.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad I finally have gotten through it, and I'm excited to play the rest of them.
Maddie Grace, do you remember how the first Metal Gear game I played was Metal Gear Solid 4?
I don't remember that. I thought the two of us were already friends when you played the series, and you played none of them, and then I yelled at you to play them, and then you played them.
That's pretty much how it went, except before we met, I also played Metal Gear Solid 4 on the PlayStation 3 video game console because everyone was talking about it, and I didn't get it.
Yeah, that game
because obviously I wouldn't.
That game's already kind of not good anyway, but it's definitely not good if you haven't played the other ones. If you're interested in getting into the series, for the record, great entry points are the original Metal Gear. Only for real heads. It's clunky. It's cool if you like old clunky games. I love it. And it means you get to play the sequel, Metal Gear 2, which is actually great, but I wouldn't play Metal Gear 2 without playing Metal Gear 1. Great entry points. Metal Gear 1. Metal Gear Solid. For the love of God, absolutely not Metal Gear Solid 2. It doesn't make sense if you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 1. I mean, it makes literal sense, but you're missing a whole lot.
The themes, the ideas.
Metal Gear Solid 3? Fantastic entry point. Just play it. You can play that game by itself and never play another Metal Gear game as long as you live, as far as I fucking care.
Except you'll probably want to.
For the love of God, absolutely do not play Metal Gear Solid 4 as your first one. MGS 5? You totally could, but again, you're not going to really get it. Peace Walker, actually, is a great entry point for the series.
Peace Walker pretty much stands alone.
I know that because I have a friend who that was their first Metal Gear game was Peace Walker, which, I mean, we go, that's weird, but also kind of owns. And also it's like the first part of sort of the trilogy of Peace Walker, Ground Zeroes, MGS5, right? But yeah, so if you feel like playing Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Solid 3, or Peace Walker, or if you really feel like it, MGS5, because of the memes or whatever, all pretty reasonable entry points, but the ones I didn't say, don't you dare. And not because like I'm going to be offended, it's you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah.
If you are like me and you have bounced off of the gameplay and you really want to experience these, after using it to watch to write my notes for the last couple episodes, shout outs again to Kefka Production on YouTube. They have their movie cut of this first one is actually phenomenal. It really evokes like playing the game in 4 hours in a way that a lot of game movies that are just the cutscenes don't. And he has I'm assuming he, for no good reason, but they have a movie for Metal Gear Solid and also for the Twin Snakes and for 2, 3, all the way up through the whole thing. So you can experience the series through Kefka Production, and judging of just how good this one was is probably a pretty fun way to do it if you absolutely can't wrap your head around the clunkiness of the gameplay.
If you absolutely can't wrap your head around MGS1, then yeah, that movie's probably good. But I would say still give MGS2 a chance. Mm-hmm. Things get a lot more modern feeling and less clunky as soon as MGS2. So I would still give that a chance, see if you can wrap your mind around that, even if you couldn't wrap your mind around MGS1.
I'm going to disagree with both of y'all. This is, again, quoting Tim Rogers' review of MGS4. If you only like to play Metal Gear for the gameplay, you'd be better off just playing Pac-Man. If you only like to play Metal Gear for the story, you're better off reading any book ever written. Or most movies. I kid, but only kind of. Like if you, as much as I really love this game, I don't think I can in good faith say that watching the game movie for 4 hours of this game would be a better use of your time than watching Escape from New York. Twice.
Yes.
Which is or RoboCop, for crying out loud. For if you want some more political, satirical commentary in your game. Or, okay, I haven't actually seen Total Recall, but I've heard
Total Recall owns.
Yeah, I've heard it's great and is kind of like
not as good as RoboCop,
which is a masterpiece. Anyway, I'm not saying you shouldn't watch these game movies. I'm just ducking a little bit by being like, I do think that most of the movies that inspired this game are, you should watch those movies.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to give Kefka Production his due. I watch a lot of game movies because of the podcast. They're a great way to write notes over just the cutscenes.
Right.
And most of them are only okay. Even Gamer's Little Playground that I shout out a lot, theirs are really good, but not at all to the level of Kefka Production. Like, you had to do a lot of backtracking that was really boring, and a lot of codec calls that were also kind of boring in this session this week. So he used the codec calls to be the voice acting for the I have to walk back and do the thing scenes, and he made the two of them better in a way that no one else does anything like that. And it's the best one of these I've ever seen. So shouts out to them.
Yeah. Nice work. Thank you. I didn't actually watch this, but like I believe you.
Yeah. But yeah, anything else to say before I say the words that end the podcast?
I didn't realize that Naomi was one of the first big roles of Jennifer Hale.
Yeah, who's
one of the most prolific voice actors in the business.
Oh yeah, actually, I have one more thing. Speaking of Naomi, okay, on one hand, it's like bilingual bonus. You would have figured this twist out ages ago if you realized that Jaeger is German for hunter, because Gray Fox is Frank Jaeger and Naomi is Naomi Hunter. Except, here's the thing, that doesn't make any fucking sense because she's not really Naomi Hunter.
Yep.
So that doesn't even make sense. I never thought about that. It's just a coincidence. Like, this lady who is Frank Jaeger's sister coincidentally impersonated someone with the name Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's also, silly. Since they're not technically related, it wouldn't technically be incest if they fell in love and you got some Hunter x Hunter fan fiction.
Oh my god.
It's pronounced Hunter Hunter.
I know, shut the fuck up. I know, shut up, I'll kill you.
But yeah,
I hate when I see a Japanese thing with an X in the middle of the title. I don't know. Is that Hunter Hunter? Is that Hunter X Hunter? Is that Hunter Cross Hunter? I don't know. I'm so scared.
Huh.
Shin Megami wait, no, what? Street Fighter Tekken? Is that how it's pronounced? Mega Man Cross
Zone.
You know, in Japanese, actually, it's not called Mega Man X. It's just called Mega Man.
Yeah, the X is silent.
My girlfriend's really mad at me. I need to go.
So yeah, that'll do it for the week. If you like what you heard, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club. You can donate to help us pay hosting costs and game costs, and in return, you can join one of 3 tiers. The Gadabout tier is everyone who pays $1 or more a month. This gets you access to our Tales of Podcastia episodes a month before everyone else, and lets you vote on our polls whenever they go live. The Warrior tier is for everyone who pays $5 or more a month, and that means you also get your name shouted out at the end of every episode, just like this. Shoutouts to Dragonslayer19, Cerebral Wind, Floris, Kildron, Freddie Rodriguez, Aaron524, Jfro Prime, and Doho. Then finally, we have the Luminary tier, which is for everyone who loves us so much that they pay us $20 or more a month, where they also get a 1-sentence shout out to make me say whatever they want. Shout out to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shout outs to William Taylor, who wants you to check out rpgamer.com, a game review website for people like us by people like us. And then shout outs to Vimk, who says, play The Legend of Legaia. It's that PS1 RPG that everyone confuses with Legend of Dragoon. And then shout outs.
I'm going to cut in. I know we don't normally cut in during this thing, but I got to say, I haven't heard that one before. Legend of Legaia has been on my list to play for like 10 billion years, and I keep never getting around to it. But because of that shout out just now, you know what? I'm going to do it. Top of my list, I'm playing it. So thank you. Who was that, Vimk?
Vimk.
Thank you, Vimk. I'm going to play Legend of Legaia now.
Awesome. And then, as always, shout outs to Carr, who's a dentist, so he's not shouting out his Twitch stream, but rather your own mouth. And he says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club Shortcast, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Matt Grace Webben.
Toodaloo, folks.
Goodbye.